My brother's fiancée had secretly been in love with me for years, and one night, drunk at their party, she finally admitted everything. Now, years later, he's on the phone demanding $50,000 for stealing her from him. About 5 years ago, my older brother Matt, he's just a year ahead of me, was engaged to a woman named Kate. They looked like a perfect match. At the time, everyone thought they were headed toward a picture-perfect life together. But things didn't end the way anyone expected, and truthfully, I played a major role in that. Before anyone jumps in and decides I'm the bad guy here, let me explain how everything actually unfolded. Matt and I have always been close, almost like twins growing up. We even went to the same college, which is where he met Kate. They were in the same year, hit it off quickly, and soon they were in a serious relationship. Since Matt and I shared an apartment during college, Kate practically lived with us. She was around all the time, and naturally, we got to know each other well. At first, I was genuinely happy for Matt. She seemed to care deeply about him, and I saw her as a possible future sister-in-law, someone who might one day be family. But as time passed, little things started to make me uneasy. Kate's friendliness toward me occasionally felt like it crossed a line. I tried to brush it off, telling myself she was just trying to bond with me. After all, we lived together and saw each other constantly. Maybe she just wanted to be close with the guy who meant so much to her fiancé. But then, my ex-girlfriends began saying things that made me second-guess everything. Several of them told me they felt uncomfortable whenever Kate was around. They claimed she acted territorial, even though she was dating my brother. According to them, Kate would ask prying questions and behave in a way that felt oddly possessive of me. At first, I dismissed those concerns. I figured they were overthinking it, or worse, being jealous or dramatic. But eventually, it became impossible to ignore. Different people, same complaints. One relationship in particular really opened my eyes. I was seeing a girl named Sarah back in college. Things were going really well between us, at least I thought so, until she suddenly broke up with me out of nowhere. I was stunned. I had no idea what had gone wrong. Then the truth came out. Sarah later told me that Kate had been sabotaging our relationship behind my back. Whenever Sarah came over, Kate would insult her subtly, exclude her, and make her feel like she didn't belong. On top of that, Kate told Sarah lies, claiming I was cheating on her. Those accusations were completely false. And what hurt the most was that Sarah believed them without even talking to me first. When I finally confronted Kate, she didn't even try to deny it. She admitted it, but instead of apologizing, she said she was protecting me. She claimed she didn't think Sarah was right for me and thought she was doing me a favor by interfering. It didn't feel like protection. It felt like a violation, a betrayal. She had crossed a line that wasn't hers to cross. And it didn't stop there. Later, I started dating someone else, Emily. Things were getting serious, and I brought her home for Christmas to meet the family for the first time. Matt brought Kate, as usual. I was hoping the holiday would go smoothly, and that Emily would feel welcomed. Instead, it turned into a disaster. Kate made Emily feel completely excluded. She'd leave her out of conversations, make plans without her, and pretend it was all just a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. Emily confided in me afterward that Kate had acted like a jealous ex, not like my brother's fiancée. She hovered near me constantly, watching us, never giving us space. It became so uncomfortable that Emily ended the relationship. All of this left me in a weird, impossible place. I didn't have proof Kate had romantic feelings for me, and she had never said anything outright. I didn't know how to handle it without tearing the family apart. But I also couldn't deny the damage she was doing. My relationships kept falling apart, and she always seemed to be in the middle of it. Then came the tipping point. It was my birthday. Kate handed me a present, a gold chain with the letter K engraved on it. It was expensive, personal, and completely inappropriate. I was stunned. Why would she give me a necklace with her initial on it? It didn't feel like something a soon-to-be sister-in-law would give. It felt romantic, intimate. I awkwardly joked maybe this was meant for Matt instead. Kate went bright red. Then she said she'd had the necklace specially made for me. She told me to wear it so other girls wouldn't hit on me. That comment made my stomach turn. I guess my face said it all because the next thing I knew, she was crying and ran out of the room without a word. The whole thing left me shaken. I didn't know how to process it. Eventually, I decided to talk to Matt. I brought it up, hoping he'd be alarmed, hoping he'd see what I saw. I couldn't quite shake off the uneasy feeling Kate's gift had left me with. But to my surprise, my brother brushed it off entirely, acting like it was perfectly normal. He told me not to read too much into it and insisted that Kate saw me as nothing more than family. When I brought up all the strange things she had done in the past, he just waved it away, saying she was merely overprotective, and that there was nothing deeper to it. Not wanting to stir up drama between us, I let the conversation go. It was clear he wasn't seeing things as they were. He seemed completely blind to her behavior. Still, that moment changed something in me. I made a conscious decision to keep my distance from Kate. I remained courteous and civil whenever we crossed paths, but I avoided being alone with her and limited our interactions as much as possible. I hoped that by putting space between us, she'd eventually lose interest and back off. When they both graduated, I assumed that would be the end of it, that I wouldn't have to deal with Kate anymore. But that wasn't the case. She began calling and texting almost every day. Even when I barely responded or ignored her altogether, she just kept reaching out. Her persistence left me confused. I couldn't understand why she was so focused on me when her relationship was with my brother. Then Daisy came into my life. We met at a party through mutual friends, and from the first conversation I felt an undeniable connection. Daisy quickly became the center of my world, and I'm so grateful our paths crossed. But Kate didn't take kindly to her. Every time we saw her at family gatherings, her attitude toward Daisy was hostile, echoing the way she had treated my previous girlfriends. This time, though, things were different. I was older, more aware, and much less tolerant of her toxic behavior. Whenever she crossed a line, I stepped in to defend Daisy without hesitation. That said, Daisy didn't need anyone fighting her battles. She's strong, self-assured, and knows exactly how to stand her ground. One particular incident stands out vividly. Knowing full well that Daisy has a serious shellfish allergy, Kate still chose a seafood restaurant for our family dinner. It felt calculated, like she wanted Daisy to feel excluded and humiliated. The moment I caught on, I refused to go. Daisy wasn't quiet either. She calmly called out Kate in front of everyone for her deliberate choice. Kate tried to play dumb, pretending she hadn't realized how severe the allergy was. When that failed, she turned nasty, making fun of Daisy and accusing her of faking it to get attention. That was the last straw. My parents immediately saw through the act and called her out for being so thoughtless. I demanded she apologize to Daisy right then and there. Kate looked furious that I stood up to her, as if she expected me to side with her over my own girlfriend. Still, she mumbled a half-hearted apology. After that, the rest of us, Daisy, my parents, and I, left to find another place to eat, while Kate and my brother stayed at the seafood restaurant alone. From that point on, Daisy and I did our best to avoid Kate altogether. Thankfully, my parents understood. They didn't push me to include her in our lives, and that made things a lot easier. The only one still in denial was my brother Matt. He kept coming to me, trying to plead her case. He said Kate felt hurt and pushed aside, and claimed Daisy had driven a wedge between us. He'd reminisce about how things used to be, urging me to spend time with them like the old days, but I wasn't interested in going back. I made it clear to Matt that Daisy was my priority and she wasn't going anywhere. I told him that if Kate couldn't treat Daisy with basic respect, then I didn't want to be part of their little circle. I wasn't going to sacrifice my partner's comfort for Kate's feelings. It was a hard truth, but it had to be said. Over time, that honesty took a toll on my relationship with Matt. Years later, when he got engaged to Kate, he invited Daisy and me to their engagement celebration. I wasn't thrilled at the thought of seeing Kate again, but for Matt's sake, I agreed to go, just for one night. I had no idea the evening would spiral into something unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. From the moment we arrived, Kate's eyes barely left me. She wrapped me in an uncomfortable, drawn out hug that immediately raised red flags. Throughout the night, she drank heavily and became louder, more emotional, and obsessively fixated on both me and Daisy. She constantly found excuses to touch me and cracked inappropriate jokes that made my skin crawl. I tried to stay away from her without making a scene, but the more I avoided her, the more she seemed to unravel. Things reached a peak during Matt's toast. While he was speaking, Kate suddenly grabbed the microphone out of his hand, interrupting him mid-sentence. Everyone fell silent as she launched into a slurred, disjointed monologue. She claimed she had been lying to everyone, including herself, for years. Then, to my horror, she announced that she had always been in love with me, not Matt. The room froze. Every eye turned to me. I felt my heart pounding as the weight of her confession sank in. Matt's face turned ashen. He looked completely shattered. And Kate? She was utterly oblivious to the chaos she had just unleashed. Her drunken outburst continued, spiraling into a raw and unfiltered confession. Slurring her words, she revealed that the only reason she had stayed with Matt all these years was so she could remain close to me. Kate then admitted something even more startling. She was bitterly jealous of Daisy, blaming her for the distance that had grown between us. And then, in a moment that silenced the entire room, Kate turned to me and pleaded, literally begged me, to leave Daisy behind. She declared that she wanted the two of us to escape together, to start a new life as a couple. Her voice trembled with desperation, each word more unsettling than the last. No one moved. The room had fallen into a stunned hush, broken only by Kate's incoherent sobbing. Thankfully, her sister, who had also attended the party, quickly stepped in. She rushed over and pulled Kate away from the microphone, trying to de-escalate the situation. But Kate wasn't finished, not even close. Even as her sister tried to escort her out, Kate screamed and cried, flailing wildly. She kept yelling things at me like, "You're the only one I've ever loved," and "Don't let her steal you from me." I stood frozen, completely at a loss for words. My brother looked utterly devastated. Around us, our family and friends wore the same expression, wide-eyed disbelief and second-hand horror. I was mortified, humiliated beyond anything I had ever felt before. And the fallout? It was catastrophic. Matt, reeling from the shock of Kate's public betrayal, ended the engagement on the spot. He severed all ties with her and never looked back. I supported his decision without hesitation. I couldn't blame him. But what I didn't expect was that Matt would cut me off as well. No matter how many times I tried to reach out afterward, he shut me out completely. Calls went unanswered. Messages were ignored. Even when our parents tried to step in, he remained unreachable. He stopped attending family events altogether, rarely spoke to anyone, offered no insight into what was going on in his life. For 5 years, he has kept everyone at arm's length. Even on the day I married Daisy, the happiest day of my life, Matt was nowhere to be seen. Occasionally, my parents would hear snippets about his life, but they were few and far between. None of us really understood why he distanced himself so completely, but we honored his decision, as painful as it was. So when my phone lit up with Matt's name this week, I was floored. I hadn't heard from him in years, and the fact that he was finally reaching out left me stunned. When I answered, the air between us felt thick with years of silence. It was awkward at first. We didn't know where to begin. Still, I was just happy to hear his voice again. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed my big brother until that moment. Matt told me he was doing well. After some small talk, he revealed the reason for the call. He was getting married. In just a few months. The news surprised me, but I was genuinely thrilled for him. After everything he'd been through, it felt like a long overdue fresh start. I congratulated him sincerely and asked if he planned to invite Daisy, our parents, and me to the wedding. It felt like the perfect chance to mend old wounds. Matt confirmed that yes, we were all invited. I felt a huge wave of relief. Maybe things were finally starting to heal. But then he said something that caught me completely off guard. He told me, calmly and without any hesitation, that I was welcome at the wedding, but only if I didn't show up empty-handed. At first, I chuckled, thinking he was teasing me about a wedding gift. I told him not to worry, I'd definitely bring something special for him and his fiancée. But Matt wasn't joking. He explained that what he actually wanted from me was $50,000. I was stunned, completely frozen. $50,000 as a wedding gift? I waited for him to clarify. Maybe this was some kind of weird joke, but his tone stayed serious. He told me I owed him that money, that after everything I had done, this was the only way I could begin to make things right. I was floored. What was he even talking about? What betrayal was he referring to? Then he brought up Kate. He replayed that awful night in detail, recounting the humiliation he felt as Kate professed her love for me in front of everyone. According to Matt, the pain and embarrassment he endured that night had never left him. He believed that I should have seen it coming, that I had ignored the warning signs, and that I failed to set the boundaries that could have prevented the entire disaster. He held me responsible, not just for the collapse of his engagement, but for the emotional scars he still carried. In his eyes, the $50,000 wasn't a gift. It was a form of restitution, a way to hold me accountable. I told him I couldn't give him that kind of money, and frankly, that I was shocked he would even ask. I said it was absurd, but Matt stood firm. He told me to think about it and hinted that if I didn't pay, whatever fragile connection we had left would be gone for good. It felt like a threat, an ultimatum. I'm hurt, angry, and completely conflicted. Daisy thinks Matt has lost touch with reality, but some of our cousins are actually taking his side. They believe I should at least consider offering something, considering what he's gone through. So here I am, trying to make sense of it all. I was just as stunned as everyone else when I shared Matt's demand. Upon hearing what he had said, they were all in disbelief. After so many years of silence and no attempts to reconnect, the only reason Matt reached out was to demand $50,000 from me. They were furious on my behalf, especially knowing the emotional toll the situation with Kate had taken on both me and Daisy. My parents have been unwavering in their support, and now we're planning a serious conversation with Matt to settle this once and for all. Our aim is to get to the root of what's really going on with him and understand his true motives. We need to know if he honestly believes that demanding $50,000 will fix things between us, or if something deeper is fueling his resentment. I'm also hoping that this meeting will give Matt a chance to see things from my point of view. I want him to understand that I was never responsible for what happened between him and Kate, and that blaming me is not going to resolve his pain. To everyone who has questioned whether I might have flirted with Kate or led her on in any way, I want to be crystal clear. I was never, ever attracted to her. From the start, I treated her with respect because she was important to Matt. Any feelings she developed for me were entirely of her own making. I never gave her any reason to think that I felt anything beyond platonic respect. Kate, on the other hand, repeatedly crossed boundaries. Even when I tried to distance myself, she drove away several of my ex-girlfriends by lying, bullying, and being overbearing. When Daisy entered my life, Kate became jealous and vengeful, going out of her way to mistreat her whenever possible. Matt wasn't blind to her behavior either. He saw how uncomfortable she made me and how hostile she was toward Daisy and my exes, but he never confronted Kate about it. He didn't call her out or do anything to improve the situation. That's what hurts the most. He knew what was going on was wrong, but chose to ignore it rather than have a difficult conversation with her. It felt like he expected me to simply tolerate her antics for the sake of peace, no matter how much strain it put on me. And seriously, what kind of grown woman gets drunk and confesses her feelings for her fiancé's brother during their engagement celebration? That moment was both mortifying and appalling. Kate had no respect for her relationship with Matt, no respect for me, and no respect for Daisy. I'm honestly relieved that Matt and Kate are no longer together because had they stayed together, I believe this unhealthy dynamic would have continued indefinitely. Now, an update. It's been a month since my last update. After a lot of back and forth, my parents, Daisy, and I finally sat down with Matt. He had made numerous excuses to avoid the meeting, dragging his feet and avoiding any real conversation. But my parents were determined. They insisted that we needed to clear the air and at least try to rebuild what had been lost. The meeting wasn't easy at first. Matt was defensive and began by admitting he had been holding a grudge against me all this time. He said he felt blindsided by Kate's behavior, and that was a big reason why he distanced himself from me. Then he started accusing me of having an affair with Kate, suggesting that there was more to the story than either I or Kate had let on. I was shocked by the accusation and told him, without any ambiguity, that I would never have done something like that to him. I had always respected the boundaries of his relationship with Kate, even when she was behaving inappropriately. I wasn't about to let him make such a baseless accusation without standing my ground. Daisy spoke up for me too. She reminded Matt that Kate's actions had hurt the entire family, not just him. She pointed out how many times he had chosen to side with Kate, despite her toxic behavior, and said he should have seen this coming much earlier than I did. Daisy told Matt plainly that what he was doing to me now was emotional manipulation, and that he shouldn't punish me for something that I, too, had been a victim of. She said he needed to let go of the past. Hearing Daisy speak so confidently and clearly made Matt stop and listen. I also took the opportunity to explain to Matt how hard I had tried to reach out to him over the years. I told him that I could have discussed all of this with him long ago. I wasn't the one who cut him off. He was the one who severed all ties with no explanation. That's when Matt confessed that he had been too embarrassed to face me back then. He said everything had felt overwhelming, and he thought cutting us off was the best decision for his mental health. While I understood his need for space at that time, I still couldn't understand why, after all these years, he was now asking me for money. Then Matt revealed the real reason behind his request. The $50,000 he was asking for was the amount of money he had spent on Kate over the years. The trips, the gifts, all the expenses from their time together. He felt that since Kate had fallen in love with me and their relationship ended because of me, I somehow owed him that money as compensation. It was as though he was trying to rationalize his absurd demand by framing it as a debt I needed to repay. I just sat there, stunned, as Matt continued to defend his outrageous request. I told him outright that he was simply looking for a way to take out his anger on me. His focus should be on Kate, the person who made those choices and caused all the pain, not on me. If he wanted compensation, he should have asked her, not me. I wasn't the one who behaved inappropriately, lied, or crossed boundaries. Kate was the one responsible for the chaos, yet somehow I found myself being blamed for it. It felt as though Matt was desperately searching for someone, anyone, to point the finger at instead of acknowledging the real person who had wronged him. My mom couldn't hold her frustration any longer. She told Matt that he was completely out of line for asking me for money and needed to stop acting like a madman. My dad backed her up. That's when my brother turned against my parents, accusing them of always showing favoritism towards me. "You should stay out of this." "You always back him up, no matter what," Matt shouted at her. Kate had chosen to leave me for him, and now Mom and Dad were siding with him. "He's obviously the favored one. You always take his side," Matt raged. My parents were clearly taken aback by his outburst and tried to calm him down. My dad spoke first, his voice steady, despite the tension in the room. "Matt, that's not true. We love both of you equally, and we've supported you through everything. We've never taken sides, and we never will. You know that. But asking your brother for money won't resolve anything, especially when he hasn't done anything wrong to you." But Matt wasn't listening. He declared that if I wasn't willing to give him money, then he had nothing left to say to me. He then told my parents that since they had taken my side, he was done with them as well. His face contorted with anger as he shot a final remark at me. I blame you for Kate leaving me, and I will continue to do so. I'll never speak to any of you again. I won't let any of you meet my wife or my future children. From today, you are all dead to me. With that, he stormed out, leaving everyone in a state of stunned silence. My parents tried to call after him, but it was futile. Since that moment, Matt has not reached out to us. I've made several attempts to contact him, but it seems he's blocked me now. Update 3. 4 months have passed since Matt cut off contact with us, and at this point, I've stopped trying to reach him. I won't lie, it was tough at the start. I kept questioning whether there was something more I could have done, if there was a way I could have said things differently to save our relationship. But after all this time, I no longer feel that guilt. I've come to terms with the fact that I can't change the past, and I can't force someone to talk to me if they're not ready. As for my parents, they do miss Matt. They love him, but they've accepted his decision. If he ever chooses to reach out, they will be there for him, but for now, they're no longer pushing the issue. Over the months, I've received several messages from people wondering if Matt was trying to get me to pay for his wedding expenses, rather than it being about Kate. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what Matt's true motivations were. If it had been genuinely about him needing financial support for his wedding or something like that, I might have been open to discussing it and seeing if I could help in some way. But that wasn't the case. He made it clear that it was about him feeling that I owed him for what happened with Kate. He believed I was responsible for the end of his relationship and that I needed to pay him back for the emotional pain he felt I caused. I just can't understand that reasoning. In the end, the money wasn't the issue. It was the misplaced anger and Matt's inability to grasp what had really happened. I don't think Matt was thinking clearly, and I've had to accept that I can't change his perspective. On a positive note, Daisy and I are doing great. Every day, I'm thankful to have such a strong, supportive woman by my side. She's currently pregnant, and we're both excited to soon become parents.